I am your host, Cristy Murray, Catholic nurse practitioner, and this is the place where we explore faith, food, and function because true wellness nourishes the body, the mind, and the spirit. And that's exactly what we are here to do together. If you're watching live, drop a hello in the chat, tell me where you're joining from, and I love to know who's in the room with us. And if you have any questions as we go, put them right on the chat. I'll do my best to weave them into the conversation. Today's topic is one I've wanted to cover for a long time. I was just telling our guests that, hey, I dabbled into or tried to look into hair tissue mineral analysis, but it made my head spin. So she's going to untangle that all for us. And I think it's going to validate what a lot of you have been feeling. We're talking about what happens when your labs come back normal, but you feel anything but. So you get the fatigue, the brain fog, the weight that won't budge, and digestion that's even off, an immune system that feels really fragile. If you've been told everything looks fine and walked away still feeling terrible, this conversation is for you. My guest today has spent over 2 decades working at the intersection of medicine and holistic health. She's built her clinical approach around a question that a lot of conventional labs simply don't answer. Why do so many women feel depleted, burnt out, and stuck when nothing shows up on their blood work? So blood work is really not end all be all. Jennifer Nelson Hawks is a board certified doctor of naturopathy and founder of Jennifer Hawks Health. She specializes in helping high functioning, burnt out women restore energy, rebalance weight, calm digestion, and rebuild immune resilience through data driven personalized care. We're not throwing spaghetti on the walls. We want data. We want to listen to what our body is telling us. So, what makes her different is something called hair tissue mineral analysis, or HTMA. It's a functional lab tool that reveals what's happening at the cellular level. Your energy reserves, your stress response, your mineral status, and things standard blood panels routinely miss. Jennifer's path into this work was shaped by personal loss, the death of her father, which led her to face her own health challenges head on, and ultimately to the cellular level framework she now uses with her clients every day. She is also an author. She authored Your Labs Are Lying, and her free electrolyte guide has helped so many women take their first practical step toward mineral balance. So, Jennifer, welcome to the Blue Veil Wellness Show. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you. What a great introduction. You basically said everything you needed to say, and I can go now. No, just kidding.
Nope, we're going to pick your brain.
I love it. I love it.
So before we dive in, I'd love for you to introduce yourself in your own words. Tell us who you are, what your work looks like day to day, and what really brought you to this particular focus.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Jennifer Nelson Hawks. I'm a doctor of naturopathy, just like you said. I have spent a lot of years in the health and wellness industry. I've owned my own wellness practice that I sold in 2022 after just needing to transition out of the burnout stage. In doing so, I wanted to kind of go onto that online space and see what that felt like. So I started that journey with some functional testing, but only get stopped in my tracks when my father passed away. So when he passed away, I had to take a step back, and I felt myself tumbling down a hill. Like I had that fatigue that I couldn't shake, that no amount of sleep would take it away. I had the weight gain around my midriff that just kept coming on for no apparent reason. Like my hair was falling out, my stomach was bloated. Like I was that person. And functional blood work. I went to the doctor, and they were like, "Here, you need a antidepressant. Here's some anti-anxiety. Here's all the things." And I knew better, and I was like, "I'm not gonna like that. Is not what I need to do." But all my blood work did come back normal, and I felt very dismissed. I felt sad. I felt alone. I felt a lot of things that I know my clients have felt over the years, but I didn't quite, honestly, I couldn't pinpoint it because I had never been there. And then I had to reach out to some other practitioners along the way and say, "Hey, like, can you help me? Like, I can't do this myself." And they said, "Sure, but we need to know what your mineral status is doing. Like, what's going on under the hood that your blood work can't show us?" And I'm like, "What?" I don't understand. And they're like, yeah, need to send in a hair sample and it'll tell us exactly what mineral patterns are happening, like what the status of your minerals are. So it can show us, the resilience of your body, how your body handles stress, what the vitality is, what your thyroid's doing, your adrenals, and all the things. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So, of course, I followed their guidance and I remember saying, I am not getting into this. I have too many other things on my plate because when things work, I tend to, at a wellness center, I tend to add
Mhm.
things in and, make it as like optimal as possible. And when I got my results back, I literally cried. I cried because finally I had a piece of paper
You have
showing
answers.
me that things weren't actually normal, that I
Mhm.
had depletion in areas that can't be depleted for my body to work optimally. And that's what really just opened my like mind's eye of what mineral status and what HTMA can actually do. And it's not so much about having to, put together that customized mineral blend that I do for a lot of people. It's, sometimes people can piecemeal it together, but at the end of the day, it's data that we can actually get that makes sense for what's going on inside of us that blood work just can't show us because it's a snapshot in time. And
Yes.
when we look at hair, we know that hair grows very slowly. So if you take, the first inch of hair and you send it to a lab and they test that, those are patterns of mineral buildup that has been happening over a 3 to 4 month period of time, which is priceless information in my eyes.
Wow, love that. Love that for you. I'm glad you found answers. And it must be really difficult, because as a doctor and then you get sick, you're all of a sudden you're on the other side of things, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So
It's a
I'm
very
glad you
vulnerable place to be because you're just like literally wanting to pull your hair out.
Yeah, I mean, like, so if you feel that way, and just can you imagine how other people would feel who don't, like who don't have the knowledge and who don't know what resources are out there. So I'm glad you're doing this for everyone and you're sharing this. And so thank you for that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So before we get into the good stuff, I have three quick questions. And
Yeah.
so I ask every guest. So first one, what book are you reading right now?
Oh my gosh. The truth is I am like starting to read some of the books that are coming out on hormones. Um, Hormones are not, I am never going to be a hormone specialist. So, um, I have been really bad, to be honest. I've been really bad about actually like pulling books and reading them as a hobby because I am trying to build right now, and so I'm trying to gather as much data as possible. So right now, I'm truly just gathering books on hormones to try to understand the process. I don't
Mhm.
have one specific one. I know that's not a great answer, but it's true.
Well, you have an answer. It's hormones, right?
It is hormones. Again, I'm not looking to be a hormone specialist, but the more we understand about what's going on and how to
Mhm.
interrelate minerals and why the body can't do some of the
Yes.
processes it's really eye-opening. And I'm with a lot of women that I work with, and that is that midlife space of perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah.
And as it's not so much about trying to dive into another specialty, it's really trying to understand how it's all
Yes.
connected.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah, hormones, I mean, I want to say that's my jam, but I have to learn. There's a lot of things I have to learn too, because like so much research is, it's coming up as well. So I'm glad that you're gathering your data there and then trying to see like how you can complement with your specialty.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when I'm done with all the data, then I'll start diving into those fun books that I love.
Books, yeah.
Yeah.
So my second question, what's the first thing you do in the morning?
First thing I do in the morning. The first thing I actually do in the morning is get up and grab some matcha green tea, and I take my dog outside for a 10-minute walk in my robe. It's what I
Wow.
do. Yep, and that's where I'm getting my morning sunlight. My dog obviously has to go outside too.
Mhm.
And since doing mineral balancing, I've dropped coffee. I don't need coffee anymore, and that has been one of the things that has really shifted my My, I don't want to call it a bad habit, but my stomach was really not doing well from having the acid on on an empty stomach first thing in the morning, even though it was that wake up. But I don't need it anymore now that my minerals are balancing. And so getting that circadian rhythm first thing in the morning is, I think, one of the most important things. In addition to that, even before that, I actually have automatic blinds. I splurged for automatic blinds that
Mhm.
open as the sun rises, so it forces me to naturally wake up.
Oh, I love that. Like, I don't know what's my favorite. I think my favorite is just like maybe just going outside in your robe.
Yeah, I do. I hear the blinds go up, and I'm like, "Oh, it's that time." But it's just that
Yeah.
natural light coming in that just,
Mhm.
like, slowly wakes me up, and then, yep, I just grab my robe, and I grab my matcha tea, and I head
Mhm.
outside with the dog.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So, what's your favorite food?
My favorite food. Are we talking, like, healthy food or not healthy food?
Favorite.
My favorite
That's the
food.
operative word.
Honestly, my favorite food is a really, really great fish taco.
Ooh.
I don't know how to explain it, but, um, I will anywhere in the world I go, I love to find a really fresh, delicious fish taco.
Mm,
I know it's the
nice.
weirdest thing, but it's what I love.
If you come to Alaska, we'll have to take you for a halibut fish taco.
Oh my gosh. See, this is yeah. Like, I think it's because, I grew up in Idaho, I live in Wyoming. Like, I have all the bison and the deer and the elk and all the meat, the cows, all of that meat. So when I when I'm able to venture out, my favorite food, yeah, is seafood.
Love it. It's
Yeah.
healthy. So let's get into it. I think one of the most frustrating experiences a woman can have in her healthcare journey is so she knows something is wrong, like you. She can feel it. She's exhausted. She can't think clearly. Her weight is doing something she doesn't understand, even though she's still eating the same. And she goes to get answers. The labs come back normal. So what Jennifer's work addresses is exactly that gap, and she's lived it. So this is the space between standard medicine, what standard medicine can see, and what's actually happening inside our cells. So Jennifer, let's start. So what is hair tissue mineral analysis? And yeah, you mentioned how you encountered it first. So tell us what it is and what we can find.
Yeah, sure. Hair tissue mineral analysis is a test that's available to look at the intracellular status of the body at a cellular level. So what we're looking for is we're looking for how much minerals or how many minerals are being stored at a given amount of time in the hair follicle that then gives us a real opportunity to look at how the body is handling multiple areas. So whether it's the autonomic nervous system, the stress response, resilience, um, even the endocrine system. I mean, the biggest thing we look at is like, what's the oxidation rate? So, oxidation rate is essentially what is the metabolism doing and what are all of the ingredients that allow it to fire the way that it's firing? So, I see mainly, I see sluggish metabolic systems as we age because of stress responses that happen in the body. But then it's a key component to look at so minerals don't work alone. I mean, that's I think one of the biggest areas of this whole thing and why it's so great because it's not just it's not just calcium, it's not just magnesium. It's calcium and magnesium, but then it's the way that they communicate together. It's the sodium and potassium and the way they communicate together. And it's about all the communication factors and how the body doesn't work on just one pathway. It works on so many different pathways. So it's a really great snapshot to see what the ability of the body is on that cellular level to do the jobs that we're asking it to do on a daily basis. So whether that's digestion, whether that is hormonal basis, whether that's the gathering enough energy to go to the grocery store on a weekend, I mean it could be so many things, but what it does do is allows us to take a look at that picture and know where the body is deficient, know what systems need immediate attention. And this is what's so great about it is because it's based on a pattern value system versus a snapshot in time. So when you get blood work, you're looking at what was going on in that 1 minute, let's just say 1 minute of
That time
time
of
that they've
day.
got the needle in your arm and they're pulling that blood out, they're spinning it down, they're sending it to the lab, and you've got a value,
Yeah.
right? But what did you do in that 24-hour period prior to that? Did you eat, did you go and out to dinner and have, a steak that was high in sodium? So your sodium level comes back on the higher end, which, you know, with a pattern in your hair, you can see that maybe the sodium isn't so much on the higher level. So it's really about taking blood work at that snapshot and then comparing it to the patterns that is going on underneath and being able to look at the big picture to see what actually do we need to do to support your body, anybody's body, from a basis of minerals.
So you send in one sample at the convenience of your home, and then
Yep.
like you get all this information as opposed to someone getting their blood work, which like depending on like the order, like is it just like hormones? Is it just their CBC or CMP? And then like if your practitioner or provider wants all this information, then there's a lot of blood, right? But here
Yeah.
tissue mineral analysis, it's like, hey, here's the instructions to clip it and send it in.
Yeah, that's correct. And what happens with conventional blood work is that we're looking at conventional ranges, right? So we're not
Mhm.
actually looking at functional ranges. And we know that blood work is designed to look for disease. It's not designed to look to see if you're thriving or not. So if you have a number that comes up that is beyond the value of a conventional lab, then you are already into a dysfunctional stage of health on some level, whether it's your thyroid or your um, whether it's your electrolytes, whether it's your CBC, your immune system. So we want to first of all take blood work and narrow it down to a functional lens, but then
Mhm.
also compare it to blood or to a hair sample that yes, now there is a little bit of work that goes involved with before you just send it on in, but the kit comes to so basically you order a kit or you go in and you pay for the test. Then a kit is sent to your doorstep no matter where you are. All the instructions are there. A little bag is there to send your hair to the lab is there. The instructions include washing your hair with clarifying shampoo. Now, the reason for that is we want to strip the hair from all the minerals and oils that are attached to the outside of the hair, not what the hair is, derived of. And so we do clarifying shampoo and then we rinse with distilled water because most people don't know what's in the water that's coming out of their shower, right?
Okay.
We tend to have water filters on our sinks or we buy bottled waters or we are well water, but the water that's coming out of the shower is just as important as the other stuff because your skin is soaking it up. Your hair is soaking it up. So we rinse with distilled water, which has no minerals at all. Then we let it air dry because if you take a blow dryer and you heat up the oils on your scalp, then what happens is that those oils tend to spread into the hair follicle. And then it doesn't necessarily throw it off that much, but we like to have as clean of a sample as possible. So then you snip it from kind of the back area of the head. It's enough to fill like a teaspoon. It's not that much hair. I'm telling you, women, it feels like it's a lot of hair because we don't like our hair being cut. We're so attached to our hair. But there are other ways we can do scalp, we can do pubic hair, we can do armpit hair. Like there's a lot of different places on the body you can get it. But then that goes to the lab. The lab uses specific tools that go in. They actually don't wash the hair. There are some labs that do. The lab that I use does not wash the hair prior to testing. And then what it does is it analyzes it and sends us back a beautiful report. And then we get to see what those mineral status, what the mineral status in a pattern execution way comes back.
Oh, wow. I love that. So how long does it take? So like from the moment it's sent in and then when do people get the results?
Typically about 7 to 10 days.
Oh, that's fast, actually.
Yeah, it's quite quick. Yep. And then I do typically do a 24-hour turnaround time just to make sure that people have their results. And then there's options. So the beautiful thing about doing HTMA, the way that I do it is it's really about giving people the tools to be able to find the data that they need. Now, whether they take that to their practitioner or whether they know how to read it themselves or whether they want to dive in deeper with me, like there's no obligation, right? There's no obligation of having to work with me, having to do customized minerals, having to do piecemealed minerals. It really is a great way for you to start, for women to start really diving into the space of looking outside of that box that we have been trained to look inside of. But the truth is there's so much more information that can be gathered for the body, especially in midlife, that this will show us.
Great. I love that. So yeah, I love that how you actually said, hey, there's other options. You don't have to cut like your your head hair.
No.
You just
There are other options, yes.
okay. So what does adrenal burnout actually look like on HTMA result, and how is that different from what lab shows or like blood?
Yes. So blood work, depending on what you're looking at, right? So blood work, if you're looking at cortisol, you're looking at DHEA, the adrenal gland sits on top of the kidneys and pumps out those two different hormones. On HTMA, we're actually looking at the minerals that feed the adrenals, which is going to be sodium and magnesium. So if the sodium, intracellular sodium is low and magnesium is high, then we've got this pattern of showing that there's a lot of basically stagnation or sluggishness going on in the adrenals. If there's a lot of sodium and a little bit of magnesium, that's an over-functioning adrenal. So we can take a look at, if the body is sluggish, do we need to speed it up a little bit on the adrenals, or do we need to bring it down a little bit? And how do we manipulate that with minerals? Now, there are other components. So I don't want you to just think like this is only mineral based, because depending on the patterns, especially when we're looking at the adrenal function, we're also looking at the sodium to potassium ratio. So sodium and potassium are typically in a slow oxidizer, so slow metabolic pattern, are going to be on the lower end. If they're on the lower end, that means the body doesn't have the capacity to be able to perform all the jobs that need to be done. And that is regulating hormones. That is supporting digestion. That is, creating resilience when the body becomes stressed. Whether, you get a phone call, whether or there's something, a bit more dramatic than that. But, how well does the body have the ability to compensate for those, for stress responses? And then sometimes we're looking at the calcium. So the calcium, if you think about it, calcium is the mineral that really buffers the stress response, let's say, right? So if the body is really stressed, it'll pull calcium from the bones to buffer the cells, to buffer the body. But then what happens is it doesn't know how to go back to the bones, right? So we get this high level of calcium building up in the hair, but when you go in and get a DEXA scan, it looks like there's no calcium, or blood work shows low calcium. So women are put on a high dose of calcium. But what that does is their body has already created a calcium shell. It's a matter of taking that calcium that's already there and shuttling it back to the bones. That's how we correct the, bone density processes in a natural way. And then when you do that, when you have someone with really high calcium, there's an emotional component that comes in. And if you've ever worked with women, that, everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, I'm good. No problems. I don't feel like I really need this. I'm good. I have got a little ache over here, but it's fine.
And I'm getting older.
Everything's gonna work out. That type of emotional, and that demeanor is very typical of someone with high calcium, because their body has learned those patterns of it's fine. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. But what we need to do is break that calcium down and shuttle it over to where it goes. And then, because what happens is when calcium gets high, guess what follows it? Magnesium. So we tend to be super low with magnesium, even though when we get our graph back, it looks like we've got high magnesium, it becomes biounavailable. So
Mm.
that means you could be dumping so much magnesium into your body, and you're like, I don't understand why all my friends tell me that magnesium is like the miracle mineral because it's doing nothing. Well, it's probably doing nothing because your specific body doesn't have the ability to move that magnesium where it needs to go.
Yes, thank you for that. Because a lot of women, like especially in social media nowadays, and we were just talking about influencers who don't have medical background. Um, they promote supplements or like here they are. I use this, and then so everyone gets magnesium and calcium, and then like you said, they don't understand. Well, I'm like taking magnesium and it's not working, but then like this analysis shows your body may be doing something else instead of absorbing it. And if your body is absorbing it, is it taking it to the right place? So yes, there's a lot at play here. And so tell me, what is the most common mineral patterns that you see in high functioning and burnt out women?
Well, there's two. One of them is the one I just talked about, right? So that intracellular calcium and magnesium are really high, they're biounavailable. They're not available for the body to utilize properly. And that is coupled with an extremely low sodium to potassium. Now, in order for the digestive system to function properly, right? So that bloating, the excess weight, the fatigue, we have to have enough sodium and potassium in our body. Otherwise, we start to break down the natural acids in our stomach for the digestion. We start to not have the availability. Remember that adrenal ratio is based off of sodium and magnesium. So magnesium is biounavailable. Sodium is non-existent. Therefore, the adrenals are saying, oh my gosh, I give up. I cannot help you. That is a typical burned out pattern. And of course, that also comes with a sluggish thyroid pattern, which is calcium to potassium ratio. After what happens is there's also another pattern that is very typical, which is a 4 lows pattern, meaning everything is low. So if a woman is, sometimes they're actually not storing that calcium. Sometimes they're burning through it so fast that they actually need some extra calcium and some extra magnesium to drive those numbers up, because they could feel just as badly having high and low at the same time. So it's finding that balance.
Mhm.
But when you have that 4 low, that means that the body is holding on. It's sequestering all the toxins and heavy metals. Like, it can't get rid of anything. So the drainage pathways take a massive hit. And these type of tendencies is where women get really sensitive. They're sensitive of smells. They're sensitive of taste. They're sensitive of people. They're sensitive
Huh.
of everything, because they don't have enough mineral status to really support them. And so those are the type of women that we really need to go low and slow with. The thing about minerals is it's not a race, right? Mineral balancing is definitely not a race to see who gets there first. Mineral balancing is definitely based on the patterns of the body, how fast you can rebalance. That's great. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of you feeling better and feeling better with the ratios coming back into balance, even if it's a slow process. So for some people, I'm still balancing my minerals, and it's been 2 years since this happened. I have other people that, gosh, they do 1 round of minerals, that I have them do, and they're like, I feel amazing. I don't feel like I really need this anymore. I'm like, that's fantastic, right? So everybody's journey is different.
Wow. So you mentioned build up. So I have two questions. So one is
Yeah.
build up. Will it detect like toxin build up? And then the other part is, so like when it detects build up, of course, like we have to find a way to detox those, correct?
Correct. Yes. So a couple of things with that. Yes, it will show patterns of potential buildup. The problem lies in, oftentimes on the first test, unless the body has some energy to be moving and mobilizing those toxins, they typically won't show up on the first test until you get enough cellular energy going. Once you get enough cellular energy going, we typically see on the second or third test, those patterns move. That's when we see like the body releasing the aluminum, the mercury, the cadmium, the arsenic. Like that's when those patterns become relevant. Now, we don't focus so much on those. We do look also at cobalt, because cobalt will tell us if the body has the ability to be supported with the drainage pathways when it comes to bile production and liver. So, and it's also then a matter of making sure that you've got enough antioxidants on board, because just like anybody, when we want to go and we want to detox quickly right away, and we don't have the support system, right? It just tends to leave us going backwards for a hot minute. Right. And the whole point of getting this done and trying to rebalance and moving forward is truly doing it at a pace that the body's able to keep up with. So we've got the toxic elements, but then we look at also like taurine. The taurine or sulfur is what we look at. The sulfur will tell us what the body's availability is to even detox. If it's really low, the body can't even detox, even if we wanted it to. So detox really is a second or third stage when we're looking at minerals, when we're looking at HTMA. It's not something that is like, it pops up, you see and sometimes you do see the heavy metals. And just like all of us, we want to get rid of them as quickly as possible. But, if you know your genetics on top of that and your body's ability to, if you can push that out into circulation, that's great. But do you have enough support to help facilitate it out and repair and recover from that? And if you don't, that can leave people feeling kind of not so great. Like, the herxing type symptoms.
Yep. Like when all the toxins, like you mobilize the toxins and they're just, now they're there where they're like sleeping and they're not bothering you, but then you like notice they're there and then you want to like get them out. So now, and then you activate them.
Yep.
And that's when people peel.
Yep. And there is the body will move those, but if we allow it to do that and we have the right support and, it's like you don't bring a plumber in to fix the lights in your house, right?
Yeah.
Like they probably could, but that's not their specialty, right? So when you think about the mineral patterns, we're looking at the sodium and potassium are really, they're the ones that really support everything. Wow. But here's the key component about that is it's not just about every electrolyte. If you look at electrolytes on the market, the ratios of electrolytes there's a vast variety. So what do you need? Do you need more sodium than potassium? Do you need more potassium than sodium? Do you not need any sodium at all and only potassium?
Yep.
So it's really the key component is to really know what ratio of the electrolytes your body, optimally will function with. Because otherwise, if you get too much sodium over potassium, we're going to be looking at, storing salt. The salt will store, but it's the bloat that comes with that, the edema.
Yeah. And then you got your kidney issues following.
Then you've got, exactly. Then it's following, like, why are my kidneys not filtering this? Well, you probably don't have enough potassium on board.
Yeah. I know I gave a class in person here, and then they wanted to learn about electrolytes and minerals. And they're like, well, what's the ratio? How much, like, what drink should I get? So like my electrolytes are balanced. And I was like, can't really tell you. I mean, like if it makes you feel good, like for this one, this one packet of whatever makes you feel good, that must be working for you. But unless we check on the cellular level, I can't really tell you what ratio you need or like across the board that everyone needs.
That's right. Yep. That's exactly right.
So what's the relationship between mineral depletion and metabolic symptoms like weight and blood sugar balance? So how does that affect our blood sugar balance? Especially now it's prevalent, especially in perimenopausal women, insulin resistance.
Yep. So when I think about blood sugar ratio, I do think about calcium to magnesium ratio.
Okay.
Which goes back to, is it available to the body or is it biounavailable to the body? So, I mean, there's a lot of components that go with that, whether, rebalancing out the calcium and magnesium aspect, but then also looking at the digestive pathways, right? The stress responses, making sure that you're not eating, carbohydrates that are completely undressed, meaning there's no fat or protein with them. So sometimes you're looking at, it's not so much about the blood sugar and the weight gain, but sometimes it's how when the body doesn't have the capability of doing the functions that it knows it can do, that's where we end up. That's where we end up with all of these symptoms. So at the end of the day, I look at when I'm looking at someone that's burned out, and I'm looking at their zinc to copper ratio. I'm looking at their sodium to potassium ratios. I'm looking at the interconnection of what their metabolic system is capable of even doing. Because again, if your spark plug is burned out in your car's, you could have a really beautiful car. And you could put the most expensive, premium gas in there, but you're going to end up pushing it up the hill because it doesn't have the right spark plug. It doesn't have enough energy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we do, but we are trained, we are conditioned to push harder. We are conditioned to push through. We are conditioned to run off of 5 hours of sleep. We are conditioned that everything is in our head. Our labs are normal, right? We're conditioned for this. And so it's really about how do we start looking outside of that conditioned expectation.
Yes.
And seeing what else the body can tell us, right? I mean, there's so many things, like, there's the gut health, there's mineral statuses, there's, you could look at iridology, you could look at reflexology. The body will tell us so many amazing things if we just know where to look. And so for me, I mean, I did do all that. I've been, and I was a certified iridologist. I do gut health. I do all the things, but it was mineral patterns. It was HTMA that finally moved my needle. And it is HTMA that I see that consistently moves the needle for people.
Well, that's good to know because
Yeah.
it's not well known, and depending
No.
on your training, people, so like, let's face it, some people will call it, oh, that's voodoo, right?
Oh, sure.
I was
Sure.
talking to someone, I was really excited coming back from a Creighton and Technology training, and I said, well, now I know how to manage abnormal bleeding and PMDD, and it's, like repeated miscarriages and all that. And it's like using progesterone, there's protocol for it. And then someone just said, oh, so now you're doing voodoo. And I'm like, really?
I know. There's everybody has an opinion these days too. And that's fine. I think that that's great. It keeps us, young and experimenting and doing all the things we need to do.
But
But,
there's research behind it, right? So we're not just like pulling this from there's
absolutely.
research, all these things. And if you're open to it and what it really is, if someone's not feeling good with like everything that you're doing, that you're helping them with, hey, it's time to look somewhere else, right?
Yeah. And I think that the hardest part with HTMA, and I know you can relate to this, and speak about it, but it's not black and white. You've got to know how to read the numbers. You've got to know what they mean. It's almost like, meeting someone for the first time and being like, wow, they didn't talk. Like, I don't even know who they are. And then like you spend more and more time with them, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like, this person's so great. I know it's a weird analogy, but it's the same type of thing with HTMA. You look at it and you're like, I have no idea. This is a different language to me. I think that they have, their patterns show this thing, but why would we add, this component or that component? And knowing when to add in a glandular versus an adaptogen, knowing when to add in, something like Relight versus just ingredients. I mean, there's a lot of different brands out there that have multiple different ratios. And so it really is about understanding that interconnectedness and really, looking at it from a trained eye.
Yeah, I agree with that. So like the interconnectedness and the pattern, just because, like we're also conditioned to know that, oh, like upper level is always good, right? So like an exam, oh, you want those A's, you want the hundreds.
Yeah, and you know, one of the analogies that I use a lot is if you think about a bank account, right? So we get money in and we have to put it out. We have to we put it out for all the bills we have. But then what happens is when people start to rebalance their minerals, they get that extra, and just like humans do, we like to spend it on the fun stuff, right? Oh, I can
Mhm.
actually buy that dress instead of just pay my bills. But what we're really trying to do is not buy the dress. We're trying to put the money in the savings account, because
Hmm.
it's the savings account that really starts to create that buffer for us. So when it comes to minerals, right, we're building minerals, and people are like, "Oh, I feel better. Oh, I feel like I thought I was feeling better." I'm like, "Okay, well, what have you been doing?" "Oh, I've been going to the gym twice a day instead of once a day." Or, I have enough energy to go out and do a 5-mile run after work now. And I'm like,
And I'm
"Nope."
staying up later now because now I have the
Yeah.
energy to do more
No,
things.
no, no. Like, we wanna save that. We want that to be, building in the background, because that's really how we get that basis and that foundation built back up.
That's a good reminder. I someone came to me and like, I've been reading and I've been hearing on podcasts and social media that about perimenopause, and I think I'm there because I'm like, she rattled everything off, right? Like, okay, I have this, and this, and she sounds like it. She may be going through that. And then so I started asking, so like, what else is happening, right? Besides all these symptoms that you're having, what's happening at home or at work? And so yeah, she's training for a half marathon, stressed at home, and so like there's no amount of estrogen or like no dosing of estrogen patch
Yeah,
that I can give you that will make you feel better.
that's exactly
It
right.
might
Yep.
push you the other way, and then you'll say that, oh, this is not working for me. I'm gonna go look for something else.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. That's exactly what happens. And it's we're it's just hard. It's hard when we have the energy to start doing the things that we really
Yes.
love to do because we haven't been able to do them for a while, but then at what expense?
Hmm. That's a good reminder that we're not meant to do everything all at once.
Mhm.
So like we
Mhm.
pick our priorities, and then just like taking care of our health, we have to prioritize sleep. We have to prioritize our gut, what we put in our bodies, and then our environment. Are we around toxic people? Are we in a toxic workplace? Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really do think, as much as even I struggle with doing it all the time, is tracking your
Mhm.
symptoms, tracking what you did, because even recently I realized that I have had some additional new shifts happen that
Mhm.
I just don't see on a day-to-day basis. So I'm like, oh gosh, I thought that would work. I thought that that would be like beneficial for me. And then when I actually saw the patterns like on paper, I was like, oh, it actually is working. I just like, in the moment, it doesn't feel like it is.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that paper and pattern because I mentioned earlier that I just came back from Creighton and NAPRO training, and yes, it is old school. We have a paper chart and we have like colored stickers, and we check cervical mucus, but it gives so much information, and it's just like even for myself, like, and I'm in perimenopause and I'm thinking, oh, this is normal. But then I did my my charting. I was like, oh my gosh, okay, something is off. I need to take care of this. And
Exactly.
yeah, it's amazing, like just looking at the pattern, because like not one day gives you all that information. Maybe feeling good that day, your hormones might be fine that day. But what's it doing over time? And what are you doing during that time that it made, a specific hormone spike? And
Yeah.
what you eat and what happens. So yeah, there's so many things involved, and I'm glad that you bring this other avenue that like people can look into when everything else is showing normal. So what does the first step look like for a woman who suspects that this is her picture? Where do people even begin?
Begin is finding a practitioner that know, like, and trust, and be able to get the testing done. So that the first step is really just getting the test, doing the sample, sending it in, and then we have a glide path of what to do from there. I mean, so Yeah, that's the easiest part. And you can test your minerals right there.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, testing intracellular minerals, just, really just making the commitment to look outside of the box. I think that that's
Mhm.
where we all need a little bit of permission to do so. And even though it might feel like something foreign because maybe your medical doctor is not looking at this, or they're going to tell you like they're cuckoo, they're crazy. They're doing witchcraft over there, like we mentioned earlier. No, there's data, there's science,
Yes.
there are PubMed articles on this stuff. Like
Mhm.
the body is giving us such incredible information. We just have to know how to access it.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
information. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and information is crucial. Like I always like it seems like I say this all the time. We're throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks, but and we can like pay an enormous amount of money on like supplement bundles, but is that what your body needs? And if even if your body needs it, are you getting the right ratio? Are you metabolizing it properly? Is it bioavailable for you?
Yeah, and I think that that is again where we come up short in conventional medicine and when it comes to blood work, because that's what people know and we do it. We spend the money on it and it comes back normal. And then that's where we feel like, you know, we feel dismissed, we feel frustrated, we feel scared, we feel like, what do we do now? Like what's the next phase? And so I think, for any woman that is in that space or even feels like that may be the space that they're heading, looking at testing your intracellular mineral status, in my opinion, is the first next best step. Because then you actually have some data around what's going on over a period of time, kind of like looking at your hemoglobin A1C versus your glucose, right?
Hmm.
Your glucose is that snapshot of your blood sugars for that day, or insulin even. But the hemoglobin A1C is looking at over a 3-month period of time based on your blood work. So we can see what percentage is happening, what that ratio is. And then we know, what if you're pre-diabetic, if you're diabetic, like what does that look like? And that's kind of what the minerals are doing, because on blood work, you can see your sodium, you can see your potassium on a regular basic comprehensive metabolic panel. And if they're trending on the lower side, most likely the reserves are going to be quite low. If they're trending, in a normal range, but yet you still feel exhausted,
Yeah.
that's when you really want to dive in deeper to say, okay, that's fine, but now let's see what's actually going on in each cell at that cellular level.
Yeah, I love that. You're really like getting into down to details. So earlier you mentioned that like first or second test, like if like the first testing, so people are feeling off, right? Their blood work and like everything's normal, they feel off. And then they get the HTMA testing. And it's like still what if it shows optimal, but they're still like feeling off?
So then we really look at the ratios at that point. So it depends. Most of the time we will see that their actual minerals, calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, copper, zinc, goes down the line. Maybe they're all kind of within the range they need to be. But then
Mhm.
what's the ratio that's happening underneath? And that's where we get to see it. And we see these on the patterns down below. In addition, if someone's minerals are fairly balanced, we're going to see the heavy metals that are present, because the body will be able to say, hey, I've got enough cellular energy to move these things. Here they are. Can you help me do that a little bit more?
Mhm.
And that's where we look at, okay, well, maybe we don't need a full custom mineral blend. Maybe we just need some, supportive agents as far as detoxification goes, making sure that there's enough sodium and potassium on board, because when you start really moving and shifting toxic metals, toxic waste, metabolic waste, whatever, extra hormones, the body will use up that savings account, the reserves. And then, so what we're looking at is, okay, these all look great right now. However, sodium to potassium ratio itself is really low. So are you in already an exhausted stage, meaning we start moving these minerals, you're going to be on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
So do we need to balance those out a little bit more before we move things? So it's really at the end of the day, if you look at the ratios, it tells a story, and it tells a really great story about what's going on.
Great. I love that. So do you prefer to balance it first before detoxifying? I think earlier you
I mean,
mentioned
I always think, it depends, it depends on where the ratios are, but you can't build a beautiful, you don't want to start painting a house that has a cracked foundation, right? You're going to just end up repainting it. So, I always think making sure the foundation is solid before you go start, tearing down walls and repainting and putting beautiful new furniture in a house, remodeling a house. I feel like, in my opinion, through these years, that and this has changed, and I feel like we grow and we evolve as we learn new things too, but mineral balancing, in my opinion, is that foundational work that a lot of us just don't really know about.
Yeah. So do you prefer, or do you think that, so if you can choose like a sequence of testing, because I know there's genetic testing as well. I talked to someone who was into genetic testing, and in his opinion, genetic testing should be the first one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it just depends on who you're talking to and what their expertise is, right? So I've done all of them. I've done all of them on myself even. I think that the minerals, even for, there's a big world out there, and we're not diving into this, but I'm just going to say it, the peptide space.
Yes.
The peptide space is loud right now. But you start putting those signaling molecules in the body, and if the body doesn't have the ability to move what you're telling it to move, like, you're wasting a lot of money.
Yes.
So I do believe, though, genetics is another really key component, because if you don't have certain SNPs, like if you don't have the COMT SNP, you don't have the ability to detoxify well, period. So that's just a reminder that, okay, if you want to move these, the metabolic waste and the toxins and all the things that need to move out of the cellular space, what do you need to put in place to help that move, right? What antioxidants, N-acetylcysteine, alpha-lipoic acid, dandelion leaves, dandelion root, like all CoQ10, like, are there components that need to be put in place? And I think that that's where genetic testing, can come into play. Then there's the gut health. What's the resilience of the GI tract? Because if you have, a leaky gut, how much of your food is slipping through and, and inflaming or activating your immune system? There's so many components. Then there's hormones. I'm not a hormone expert. Thank goodness you are, because I will drive everybody your way. And I think that finding the practitioner that's willing to stay in their lane and really help you with a certain path, and then be able to guide you into the other pathways of people that really are experts at those other stages, is quite important.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. So like, not one testing is better than the other. So it really depends like what women or people are going through. And then like, if we don't get the answers from something, or, like a specific testing, like if we don't get the answers from blood work, then there's HTMA.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Or there's genetic testing, or there's hormone testing, or there's GI testing. So it's just a matter of, thinking about what fits best in your unique scenario, and what information you want to really know about to start with.
Yeah. But the goal is really for people to function optimally, show up as their best self, nurture their relationships, and like do what they're supposed to be doing here on
Yeah,
Earth.
yeah. And with just one more little piece to that, it's also about the habits you have in place, right? Are you going to bed at a normal time? Are you getting enough water? Are you eating healthy foods? Do you have healthy relationships? Like, there's so many other components to just what testing do you do. If you're not getting natural sunlight in a day, if you're not doing some of the pieces that nobody else can do, only you can do, then maybe start there.
Yes.
and see how your body responds to that. And then if you see that response happening, then you can start diving into further data. But I
Mhm.
really think that there's so many free complementary things that our human body needs on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And are you giving it those luxuries first?
Yeah, like you had said earlier, you have your circadian rhythm dialed in.
Mhm.
Like you have
Mhm.
your automatic blinds, and then you go for a walk. Oh my goodness, in the morning. That's just with your matcha tea. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jennifer, this has been such a clarifying conversation. I think you've given our audience language for something many of them have been living without a name for, and that's generally really valuable. Um, so for everyone watching and listening, if this conversation resonated with you, Jennifer has a free electrolyte guide. It's jenniferhawkshealth.com/electrolyte. So I will put it in the show notes. And if you are interested in her HTMA testing, there is a QR code that's um, on the screen. So feel free to scan that. And you can also find her on Instagram and Facebook at Jennifer Hawks Health. Please subscribe to the Blue Veil Wellness Show if you haven't already, and share this episode with a woman in your life who has been told her labs are fine but knows something is off. Leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever had your minerals tested? Or is this the first time you're hearing about this? I'd love to know where you're starting from. And caring for your body isn't just self indulgence, it's stewardship. When we understand how we're made, down to the cellular level, we can show up more fully for our families, our vocations, and the people God has entrusted to us. Until next time, stay rooted in faith, intentional with your food, and aligned in function. Jennifer, do you have any last words?
No, thank you so much for having me here. And I hope to see some of you in the in the mineral space soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode.